Book of Ruth has always spoken something different to me. Every time I hear it or read it, something new kind of pops out. And it's a short story in the Bible. And so I asked God to just put something new and fresh in my heart about the Book of Ruth again today. And he did. He's so gracious that way. And so if you don't know the story of the Book of Ruth, the short version is that Naomi had two daughters-in-law and her sons died, and one daughter-in-law left to go back and live with her people, and Ruth stayed with Naomi, and they went back to live with their people because women who didn't have men to take care of them back in their day were really in a tight spot. So they moved back to where family was, and Ruth decided she would stay with Naomi even though Naomi wasn't her original family. Naomi was her mother-in-law. So they moved back, and the story is about how they're really taken care of because they followed God's lead, and how God just provides. And then that's the beginning of the legacy of Jesse and David, King David, and the lineage of Jesus Christ. And so Ruth originally was not a believer, I don't think, because they said she came from a different people and different gods, but Naomi was a believer. And so in choosing to stay with Naomi, Ruth chose a new God, and that's our God, the Christian God, or back in those days, the Israelites. So today, as I was reading the story, like loyalty has always stood out and other things like that, and honoring family, honoring your in-laws and appreciating them, and different things. Today, though, was about dreaming. And I'm a life coach, and if you ask me what I specialize in, because a lot of life coaches have niches, I would say one of mine is helping my clients dream and then take steps towards their dreams, or even helping them dig up the dreams they've forgotten from a long time ago. And I don't mean the dreams that you have when you're sleeping. I mean the dreams you have of where your life could go, the dreams you have of wanting to do something different and than where you're at, and or maybe you're in the middle of pursuing those dreams, but you feel stuck. So today I was listening to Ruth, and I wasn't expecting to go down the road of dreaming, but there's a couple of things that really stood out to me. And one of them was when you're in the middle of pursuing a dream that feels bigger than you, way bigger than you, oftentimes even believers, well-meaning, well-intentioned people will try to talk you out of your dream. And I think it's partially they want to protect you from, maybe they fear you're going to fail, or sometimes I think it might be jealousy, or sometimes they just don't see the same vision that you see in you. But if God has planted a dream and a vision in you of who you are and where you're going and what his purpose is in your life, well, Ruth didn't even listen to the advice of Naomi. Naomi kept trying to say, no, you're well-intentioned, but no, you need to go back to your people. I totally understand. I'm your mother-in-law. I'm not your mother. And Ruth had to trust what she was hearing in her heart, which I truly believe was God calling her to take care of her mother-in-law. And so she listened to that. Now, I want to encourage you that it's scary to grab onto a really big dream that others are not going to buy into. So when you do that, just know that you might be on a bit of an island by yourself, and you might have a Naomi in your life trying to talk you out of it, for good reasons, bad reasons, doesn't matter, but just different reasons. But you can be like Ruth and say, no, No, this is what I know to be true. I am supposed to go and do this. And for Ruth, it was to go and be with Naomi and her people. For me, it's to stay on the path of being an inspirational speaker. For you, it might be a dream career, or you know you're supposed to have children, but you haven't had them yet and you don't know how that's going to happen. Or maybe you just know that you aren't supposed to be single anymore, but you don't see any avenues opening up for that. Or maybe there's been a loss of a job or a friend, or a big blow to the ego due to being laid off, or a boss confrontation, or losing a friendship or something, or even health. But you know that your life is bigger than this one moment. This is the moment where you get to choose. There's a crossroads. Just like Ruth was being encouraged to go back to her people, or she could follow the God of Naomi and go with Naomi's people. She chose the God of Naomi. So that's our God. If God has told you that you are going to be a mother, stay open to being a mother in any way he brings that to pass. If God says you're supposed to be, if God's planted a dream in your heart that you are going to be traveling for your career and doing things on his behalf, hold on to that dream. If God has given you the dream that that even your sick body will be used for his glory, hold on to that dream. What I'm saying is, one of the first things that I heard today was that when we have a big, big dream, or if you've heard you're going to be healed from emotional stuff, physical stuff, and you just know that you're going to be healed, hold on to that. People, even well-meaning believers, will often try to talk us out of our dreams. So just know that that's normal. It's not them being an adversary. It's not them being terrible people. It's just they're not God. And really, your dreams and your relationship with God are between you and God. So hold on to the dreams. Don't let Naomi's of the world talk you out of your dreams and following them. Now, two, so let's say you're on this path and you've accepted your dream and you're like, okay, God, it's you and me. We're doing this thing. And teach me how to walk that out. Well, with Ruth and Naomi, they had no men to provide for them who had jobs. And back then, you could go to the fields, and they called it gleaning. And you could walk behind the harvesters and pick up whatever was left over. That was kind of their food bank of the day. And so Ruth would go every day to this farmer and glean from his field. And she worked so very hard, and she got noticed by the farmer because of her hard work. And it turns out he was this was an ordained meeting that wouldn't have happened if a lot of things hadn't happened. If Ruth had not chosen to go this direction, if Naomi had not needed something, they were in great need. So a lot of times when you get up against a dream, it gets hard because maybe you don't see the finances to get things done that you need to get done, or maybe you don't see how the path is going to unfold, or maybe you know you need something to be able to get the job done. Maybe you want to be a graphic designer and you don't have the computer hardware or software that's going to be expensive to get that started. Just even practical things. This story shows us that practical things matter and that God knows that. And so she was out gleaning from the fields. And the short of the long story is that she ended up marrying this farmer, Boaz, and he became the man who took care of both Ruth and Naomi. And then Ruth and Boaz were able to have a son who then was the father of Jesse, who was the father of King David. So if you're in a space in your dream where you feel like you're working your buns off, but you're not making much traction, that's a gleaning moment. Okay? You're doing the work that needs to be done today so that you're setting things in motion with God for greater things to come later down the road. And in a lot of ways, I feel like I'm in a gleaning period right now. I'm learning, I'm observing, I'm taking things in. I know the vision of speaking, and I'm speaking in different ways, but I know what the ultimate vision of speaking is, that God has never released me from, that I give to him all the time if he wants to take it back, just to make sure it's not about me. But he spoke to me, he goes, Kimberly, all the gleaning that you're doing right now, this work and this learning and these planting seeds and this finding mentors and things like that, all that is going to bring you the fruit of a great legacy. I don't know exactly what that means, but it's true for all of us. Ruth was obedient in doing what she needed to do to take care of the things of that day. She went and she gleaned off the fields, which led her to Boaz, which led her to a great history, which led her, or a great future, which led her to a great legacy that we all get to inherit now in Christ. Without any of those steps, or without the pain of losing her husband, that wouldn't have happened. So God's a redeemer too. So I lost a lot of health about a decade ago and thought my dream was dead. Just like Ruth lost her husband, and Ruth and Naomi thought the dream was dead, that they were going to be stranded and all alone. God's a redeemer. He put them on a different path than they could see at the time, and they just kept doing the next thing they knew to do, and things unfolded. So that's how I'd encourage you. If you're in a gleaning space right now, I encourage you to just keep doing the next thing that God tells you to do, even if it makes sense or not. Even if you can't see that it's going to be a next step to something, it is a next step to something. So if you feel like you're just spinning your wheels, but you know that you're doing what God's asking you to do right now, then just stay faithful to that and know that he's not wasting your time. God's timetables are very different than ours, and that's okay. We just need to have patience and trust that if we're gleaning, if we're trying to just do the next best thing to go down this path of our dreams, that we're in the right space, even if it's just working hard in the middle of the field, in the middle of the day, getting the leftovers. Okay? It's okay, because Ruth did that and great things came of that. So the third thing is that when you're following a dream, it's important to have people who've gone ahead of you, who are believers, who will help you stay true to that dream and who will help guide you. So Ruth had Naomi, and Naomi had ideas because she had a relationship with God. She had ideas on how all of this could work out, and she would suggest things to Ruth, and she was grateful for the things that Ruth did. And she was wise. She told Ruth to stay at Boaz's field because he was a family member and he would protect her. Single women out in the middle of a field of workers were not safe. And so she gave her a lot of wisdom. And so we all need somebody in our lives that's going to help us stay on track, going to help see ideas that maybe we don't see, that's going to be able to continually call us back to our faith when things get confusing and frustrating, and that someone that can just be a wise mentor who's been down the road a bit. So I have a life coach for that reason, and I life coach people who are a few steps behind me in their dreaming process. So that's a true blessing. And I think the last thing that I want to say is that I keep thinking of Ruth in the field picking up little grains of wheat and barley from the fields. It must have seemed like just a pure act of obedience and inconsequential for such a big legacy that got left through that behavior, through that act of obedience, that I think we can get lost in today and then we just bury our dreams because it takes too long, or maybe we think we've heard wrong, or maybe it's too tedious, or maybe we see, because on social media, lucky us, we get to see everybody else who looks like they're 10 times further down the road than we are. None of that matters. Because if you're staying obedient to what God has called you to, and you are doing the thing that He has you to do today, you are in exactly the right place. And you're in the right place to be set up for your dream to be fulfilled and for your life to leave an amazing legacy. So if you haven't read the Book of Ruth, I'd encourage you to read it today. It's a very short story. On audiobook, I think it only took 10 minutes to hear the whole book. And see what you glean from the Book of Ruth about your dreams. And I'd love to hear from you. What is your biggest challenge right now that's set in front of you about accomplishing a really big dream that you have? It might be something like, I can't see it really happening and I don't have anybody encouraging me, or I'm in the middle of rebuilding a website that's trying to kill me because I hate technology. That's an issue right now, but I just keep giving it to God. It's a lot like gleaning. It's a lot of hard work and not a lot of fun. And so I just keep asking God to give me the patience to get through each day as I work on that. And He just keeps being faithful in providing little baby steps. And I know that's just what I need to do today. And it doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like it's doing any good. But it's where I am. And it's part of the process. Or maybe you don't have the support in your life like I do, like my coach, who really helps me to be able to continue to see my dream, be on board with me, help course correct if I don't spend enough time with God, or if I'm feeling a little lost somewhere, or if I have an idea but I'm not sure if it's a viable idea or wise idea. She's just wise. She's been down the road farther than me. And so she's my Naomi. And so I'd encourage you to find a Naomi in your life, whether it's a life coach, or whether it's a mentor from your church, or whether it's a friend who's been down the road farther than you. Find somebody who can help speak wisdom into your life that you trust. We don't need a lot of Naomis. In fact, Ruth had one. So we don't need a whole gaggle of people speaking into our lives. And in fact, that can get confusing. And some of those voices can get kind of like a cacophony of noise that then makes it hard for us to discern. What you need to discern is who is the Naomi. You can have other people in your life, of course, as friends, and you can share your dream and all that kind of stuff. But we all need a Naomi. So maybe that's the part of your dream that's missing right now, is somebody who can help provide wisdom. Or maybe you've just had a death of something, a death of health, a death of a person, a death of a job that you thought was your dream, a death of a relationship or a friendship, a death of your church and you've moved to a new church, or maybe severed ties in a community of people that have served you well for a long time and don't anymore. There's so many different kinds of deaths that we can go through. But what God promises, He's a resurrecting God, and we're coming up on that with Easter coming up here soon. God's a resurrecting God, and He doesn't waste those deaths. I've left jobs that I thought were the jobs I was going to retire from 3 times now. And yet they always lead back to this dream that I've had since I was a teenager. So God keeps putting me back on the course to this dream. And so ultimately I can be grateful that those jobs are not where I'm at, even though they seem like the logical place to be. Or they were a dream, but they were a dream for a season. They weren't the ultimate place I was supposed to land. So, 1, are you dreaming? If not, why not? 2, If you know your dream, are you gleaning and frustrated at slow progress? Be comforted and know that that's just part of the process and it's okay and it will lead to a great legacy. Stay faithful. 3, do you have a Naomi? Do you have a mentor, a wise woman in the faith who can go before you and help you stay wise in your walk too? That's the Book of Ruth for me today, and I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to write in the comments. Feel free to send me an email, kimberlyspeaks.com. Feel free to go on my website and comment. Feel free. I have a club called the Modern Mess Princess Club on Facebook, a fun little name for a group where we discuss this kind of stuff. So go there and just ask to join. It's a closed group, so that the comments stay private. So you don't have to worry about your comments being out in the middle of the world and your questions. But I'd love to see you there. That's probably the best community to talk about something like this in. So let's just dig in and see where we're at in the story of Ruth in our lives, and then what we can learn from her and her story and apply that to where we're at. Well, that's it for today. I just wanted to share that with you guys. I so appreciate you, and I'd love to pray for you. Another thing you can do in the Modern Mess Princess Club is ask for prayer. So I'm there for your support in that way too. And I'm just gonna sign off for now. Have a great day, beautiful.